Yeah, hello there, and welcome back. And let us continue. And currently, we are on the section 4, which is building a secure application. And today, we will be learning about the lecture 9, which is to have a secure or the screen lock inside our application. And this will be really helpful when you are building an application like a banking application or some kind of the crypto application where you want to enter a passcode to enter a certain screen or to view certain information. You need a user to authenticate, so whether they can authenticate using fingerprint or they can authenticate using the passcode, or like let's say when you start the application, user get authenticated using the login and the email and the password, and later when they want to enter to the certain screen, you want to have a passcode to enter, so confirming that the validation of that particular user. Or let's say you have a bank account detail and you want to a user to authenticate before they can view that particular information, right? So in this kind of scenario, you can add a lock screen to your application. So let us go to the pub.dev and search for the Flutter lock screen lock. This is a popular package and it has the quite good feature, and I have been using in most of my production application. So this Flutter plugin provides a feature for a lock screen, and you can also enter a passcode or you can also use a biometric. But the biometric authentication we have already set up in our lecture, which is a fingerprint, face scan, and the passcode authentication, where we have already set up the local auth. And today we are going to just set up the lock screen. So let's go to the installation and make sure you read the documentation. Understanding of the documentation is really important to use any of the packages or the library. So I'll copy the dependency from here, and let us go back to our application over here, and let's add the dependency, and let me get the readme file too. Just copy this, and let us go and put the documentation link over here. This is for our further references. So once we have that, let's run the I will the pub get or the fvm flutter pub get to get the dependency, and that should be fine. We don't have any error. We are good to go. So what we will do now is we will go to our I guess I'll go to the common, and in the common let's add some information. So let me minimize all of this, and in the common I'll add a new folder, and let's create a class over here, and I will create a new class over here. Let's call this class, let's give a name, and I'll just call it as to set a passcode screen dot file. And here let's create a abstract class, and let's call it as set passcode, let's say screen or something, right? And then let's, okay, so I guess it should be for passcode, and let me also change this one to the underscore passcode screen. Okay, so here we will add this function. So let's go over here. I'll just use a void function, and let's just set a passcode and set a passcode or something. You can give a name over here, but I'll just give it as a set passcode screen. And here what we will do is we will use the scr in screen log, sorry, not the green, this is the scr in screen log, and this comes from the package. You can see Flutter screen log, and we need to provide some of the information over here. So let me just arrange it properly, and we will provide some of the constructor parameter for this one over here. So what we'll do is, first of all, let's take some of the parameter that we will require over here, and let's go over here to set this. First we will need a build context, and I'll just say it as a context. And second parameter, let's take as a input controller, and let's say this is of an input controller. and then we'll also require, let's say, some of the function like string and correct string, and let's have a default value of empty. And then let's say we have, what I need to do is for this one, so let's say rest of this let us create as optional, and let's move this one up over here. So I guess that should be fine, and this is a required parameter, and then this is our optional argument that we want to pass. Okay, so we put it inside the curly brace over here. And once we have this correct string, also we can add the widget, and this widget we will have a title. So let's say title title, and this title will just set some default value in case if the user doesn't have to pass in every time. So let's say create your passcode or something. You can pass in the default text over here, and also we can pass in the another widget over here, that is to set up the and for confirm the title, because a user have to confirm when they are creating a first time setting up this, they also need to confirm it. So let's say CON confirm the let's say confirm title, and we'll just say the const of the text, and here we will just give can just say enter or enter your FIRM confirm passcode, right? This is to enter your confirm passcode, or you can just give any other name, so just keep that text. And then we will have another one, also variable of a bool, and we'll say use the use the landscape, which is by default we'll set it to false. If you want to set it to true, that should be fine. But use landscape basically means that user can rotate the screen and whether it can go to landscape or only the portrait mode. So we want to just support the portrait mode, then that should be fine. And int, and we can also set the arbitrary ry delay, and this we will just set it to the 60 second for the 60 second for now, or the millisecond. So you can just set the timing, so delay delay, so delay delay, right? That should be fine now once we have this. And next is what we will need is another one. Let's have a void of the function, and a void function, and the type we will take it as a string, and that should be fine. And what we will just call it as maybe this one can be nullable, and I'll just say did CONFIRM did confirmed. And also I will add another widget over here, and that widget we will have will be type of the nctr function, and this will also take a build context, and also it will take the duration, and then it will be type of the delay buil, we'll call it as a delay builder. And finally we'll have one more widget to have over here, and then we'll call it as a footer footer. Okay, so these are the parameters that we will require to pass in. So we are creating a class, and we are not directly using it inside of our widget or anywhere. So we make it as abstract class, and we created a function because we want to make it a reusable class over here. So later we can use a mixin to call this particular function from our widget tree, so we don't have to every time rewrite the same code to create the passcode screen. So we can set it over here and we can call it from the multiple places. So this is the reusability of this particular class. So here we are creating a reusable class or the function. So let's go to the screen lock over here, and I can just remove this. It should be of a small, let me just remove this scr in screen lock. Let us call this one, and that we need to pass certain arguments over here. And the context, we are getting it from the context. Correct string is the correct string that we are passing it over here. And the other thing that we can also pass is the title. So let's pass in the title, will be of the title that we are passing in, and also we need a confirm title, right? So then we can pass in the confirm title from here. And let's say the digit, we can have how many digits of the pin code the user can set, either 4 or either the 6. So I'll just set it to 6. You can also set it to 3, 4, 5, depend on your requirement, but I guess 6 should be the good enough, and 4 may be quite less for nowadays, and still fine depend on your requirement. But I'll set it to digit at a 6, which means that the minimum the requirement to enter a passcode is a 6-digit number. And then I will just set as we will have confirmation is a true. We can set it confirmation true, because this is to set a passcode. It is not to unlock the unlock the screen, but it is to set up your first time passcode, right? So we need to confirm, so we'll set it to true over here, which means that once this they will have a second confirmation screen to confirm their passcode. And after that, we can also set the use the landscape mode to the use the landscape mode that we are passing in. And then we can also pass in the input controller, and then we also have an input controller. Later we can reset it or do something with that, the text that the user have passed in. And we can also set the retry delay, which we are passing it the from the we just pass retry delay, it I guess it is a duration. So we also have a retry delay to 60. So what we'll do is we'll pass in the we'll do the duration over here, and with the duration I'll just set it to second, or you can use a millisecond or second or minute, up to you. So I'll just use over here and pass it the retry delay that we are passing in, which is I'm setting it to 60 seconds. So which means that if the user try to do a multiple wrong input, and then I will lock it for the 60 second over here. And the next is we can have another option, which is to maximum max retrieve, right? So I can just pass in the max retrieve, and here you can pass how many time the user can maximum retrieve. So let's say if the wrong input, so I'll just say as a 3 time. After 3 time it will get a lock screen, which means that the user have to wait for another delay over here. So let's set up the delay. So delay builder, and this takes the delay builder that we are passing in, which is this function. So if the user doesn't have that delay builder, then we will set up our own, so which is we'll pass in the context, and the second is the delay that we need, so delay delay. And here we can set up our own. So let's say we'll pass in the text, and with this text let's say we input some information. So you see, and then you cannot you can, or we can just say, let's say CA and then it cannot be entered for for the delay that we are passing in, right? So we have to pass in the delay. So we are delay that we have dot in not the delay delay dot the millisecond. So we have a millisecond over here, delay dot the milliseconds, and divide by the sorry, it should be inside here, divide by the 1000, and dot the, let's do the ceiling. So over here it should be over here, I guess it should be, let us close this one, and dot, let's do the seal, and then it should be on the second. Where is not here, it should be offside here. Okay, that should be fine, and which means that they will give a message if the user doesn't pass in any of this widget over here, we will show default one. So cannot be, not the knee, it cannot be entered for the delay of this one. The second dot divided by this, and then the second. Okay, and then that should be fine. Or you can just directly pass in this digit. If you can also pass in as the parameter. So what we will do is, otherwise if you are passing it the delay over here, that is where is the delay over here, and that delay you can get it from here, which is coming from here, and using that duration you can actually calculate. So what we will do next is the another option that we can set up is the did confirmed. So whether the user confirm or not, so I'll just have a did confirm that we are passing in over here. So did confirm is a function, right, and we get the string as the parameter. And also we can pass in the footer, and the footer that we are passing as a parameter over here. So once we have this, what we can do is, let me add this one more time. So we have this particular function, that's great. And next is let me copy this and have another class over here, paste it over here, and this we will not set, but this one will just show the, let's say, show the passcode screen. So one is to set the lock, and one is should be to unlock the screen, right? So set and show should be over here. We'll just say over here, show the passcode screen, and here we'll also set it to sh, show the passcode screen. So that should be fine. And here we need to just so certain things we don't need to pass in some of the information. So we need to pass in the build context, and then we also need to pass in the I guess the correct string. So correct string we can pass in over here, and the correct string is, so I need to make it as a required. So because we are unlocking it, and we need a correct string. What is the correct string to unlock it, or the correct pin code to unlock it, or the passcode to unlock it? So this is a correct string. And then we can pass in the title, that should be fine. And the title may be create your passcode or enter your passcode over here. The confirm we don't need it to pass in over here, and that should be fine. And use the landscape, that should be fine. And then next we will say the retrieve, right? And then we'll also set the landscape mode over here, that should be fine. And function did confirm, I guess we are not confirming here, we don't need to set the did confirm because we are unlocking it. And we can have a delay builder over here, and then we can have a footer. I guess we can just remove the footer for now. And then we have a build context, correct string, and then we need a one function over here. So let us have a one function which will be have a required type, required type of the function, and this will be of the void type, and then the function. And this doesn't return us anything, and I'll just say did on locked, did unlocked, locked, did unlocked. So did unlocked means that did the string match, the passcode match, and did it unlocked, right? So once we have that, what we'll do is we'll go to our screen lock over here, and we'll set the context and the correct string and the title, and confirm title we don't need it, and the digit will be 6. It should be same with the set passcode, and confirmation is not true because we are not setting the lock over here. And we'll just set the landscape true. Input controller is not needed over here. And then what we need is retrieve delay. Okay, so max retrieve is fine, retrieve delay it should be fine, we can have it. And the delay builder, I guess we can have it. And did confirm, we don't need this did confirm. And what we'll set is did unlocked, right? So did unlocked is a function, and if you want to read the documentation, you can actually read all of the required parameter over here. So did confirm, did unlocked is over here, called if the value matches the correct string. So which means that this string and the string that user is entering, or the passcode user is entering, if it is matched, then we will have that over here. So I'll just set it to did unlocked. That should be fine, I guess. And I guess we can go to the set passcode, and some of the information I think we'll not need it over here. Just remove the red tree, and let's not set the red tree over here because they are just going to for this is just for to enter the set up the passcode. So I can just remove some of this. I guess it is not required, so I'll just remove this. Did confirm is used. Okay, that's it. Landscape, okay, and confirm title. Okay, the rest of the things I said should be fine. So once we have these two class, what we'll do is we'll go to our let's go to our main screen. Okay, so currently we don't have any place to set up, so let's create our first feature. So currently we are not working with any feature, but let us start working with the feature features. And if you remember from our the first section where we talk about the architecture and all of the things like folder structure, how to prepare it, so now we are working with the feature. So let us see how we can start working with the feature. So first of all, I'll create a new folder, and let's say this is it is setting feature, setting. And inside this setting we will have a different one. We will have our data layer, so where we will be storing all of our connecting to the data. Make sure you go back and watch the architecture section where we have mentioned. So let's create another folder. We will have a application layer, sorry, APPLICATR1 application. We'll have a different layer, set up the different layer over here, and another one will be the domain, COMAIN domain layer. And then we have another one is the presentation layer, so PRESENTATRON presentation layer. So we will have a four layer, four folder, or the four layer for each of our features. So later you may have a home feature, so we will consider the same layer for that one. In the presentation layer is the one where we will be putting our state, so stat state, right? And here we'll have our UI, all of our screen and widgets should go inside. In this UI we will have the widget or the screen, and also we will have the controller where we will be setting up all of our controller. And in the domain we may have the like the model, and we can also have the mappers, right? and then we can have in data, we will have a repository, repository, or repository, where we will setting up all of our, and here we can have our services. So here we can also have the like the DTO, or the data transfer object, and all of those stuff. So if you go back and revisit the architecture section, you will see much of those stuff that I have mentioned over there, which you can obviously see from this particular lecture, which is understanding a layer architecture diagram. So we are separating it to a different layer to have a clean architecture. So presentation layer that we have is a presentation, and we have an application layer, we have our application folder over here, and then we have a domain layer, which is of this one, and then we have a data layer, which is of this one. So we have a different 4 layer over here. So each of the feature will be separated into a 4 different layers. So application, data, domain, and the presentation. So this will keep our application and clean, and we will have a separation of concern over here to maintain a clean architecture. So in our presentation layer, we should put our widget, states, and the controller. And then in the application layer, we'll have all the use cases and the business logic. And in the domain layer, we'll maintain our model and the mapper. And in the data layer, we'll maintain the repository, DTOs, entities, and all of those stuff, like connecting to the API, connecting to the local database, and all of those stuff are maintained over here. So if you have forgot about it, just make sure you go back and watch this lecture. And we will cover up this on the next course, where we will have the implementation of the API. At that time, we will revisit this again and see and understand it in much better way. For now, you just make sure go back and watch this. And if you cannot understand all of these folders over here, why I have created so many folders inside this setting feature. So let's go back to the presentation, and we will have the widget over here. And in the UI, I will add a new, let's add a new screen, and let's call it as a setting underscore str screen, and dot file. And this, let's create a stateful widget over here, and call it as a setting str screen, and setting, right? That's it, setting screen. So okay, so it should be setting screen, and here it should be T, and why I made it. So okay, I need to import this one. So let us import this library material, and let's set this one to the const. And instead of the stateful widget, let us use the consumer stateful widget, and I'll extend it with the base consumer state. And this should be also from the consumer state. So consumer state is coming from this Flutter Riverpod library. Okay, so consumer stateful widget is also coming. Now we have a ref. We can access to the ref, and using this ref, we can call all of our providers, right? So that is the point of using this consumer widget. So once we have this, what we will do is I'll just return scaffold from here, and let's have the app bar and the app bar, simple app bar for now. And then let's have the app bar can have sorry, not the app, it should be app bar, right? App bar. And in the app bar, let's have the title, and let's have the const of this text, and let's call it as a setting, and let's center it. So center the title to true. And then once we have this, let's have a body. So a body over here, and in this body, let us add let us set up the column, I guess. And in column, we will have the children, and that should be fine. In the children, what we will do is we'll add let's add list style over here. And with this list style, we will add some of the information like the title, subtitle, and let's add the trailing widget. So let's add the title, which takes the const of the text, and let's call this one as is it requires a widget? Yeah, it requires a widget. So let's pass in the information like enable the enable the passcode, and then what we'll have after this is the subtitle, and we'll just create a const of the text over here too, and we'll just say enable or disable your passcode. So I'll just say passcode over here. I guess that should be fine. And then let's have our trailing also takes a widget, so let's have a switch is WITCH switch, and the let's have adapted, and this is a value, so it requires a boolean value. And let us set up this one, and what will happen on the onChange. So onChange, it requires a function, and that has the type parameter of a boolean. So let's create a function, and the value that we get over here, and let us set up over here, and the value we need to set up whether true or the false. So for now I'll just set it to false. We need to get it for this one. Okay, so once we have this, what we can do now is in this, let me remove this one. Okay, so this is a settings screen, and what we'll do is we will go to the main widget, and from the main widget we need to call that particular page. So let's go to our here, and instead of passing the home page, let's start with the setting screen, right? So let us start with the setting screen from here, and now we can just you can just remove it. We are going to clear it out later. So we have this particular function, and let's go to our controller, or when we click on this particular switch, what we want to do is, and we want to open up that particular screen. So that is to add that particular function that we have created, which is to call this particular function to set our passcode. So let's go to this extend the base consumer, and here we'll use a mixin, which is we'll use a with, and we'll call the set passcode screen, and also we will call the show the passcode screen. So now we can actually call that function from inside our application. And for that, what we'll do is let's go down over here and create one function, and I'll just call it as a void, and let's say set passcode. So let's say a set passcode, and here we will be just calling the let's create a call the function set passcode over here, and set passcode screen, or if you go over here, it has a set passcode or passcode. I guess we can just remove the screen because it makes us confusing. So I can just remove the set passcode and the show passcode. So just remove that, and you can keep it if you want. So I'll just say I will just remove this over from here and set the passcode over here, and I need to pass in the context, and then I need to pass in the input controller, right? And then other stuff over here, and let's go over here, and input controller, I need to set up the input controller, and for that I'll set up a final, and I'll just call it as a input controller, which is of equal, so I can get it from input input uint controller, which comes from that particular package itself, and it comes from the same package which is of the input controller from the Flutter screen lock package. So we have that, and then we can also pass in the did confirm, and it takes the function, right? So here we pass in the text that is matched, so matched matched text. So so match, I think it should be text. Okay, so that should be fine. So match text over here, and this is called when the text is matching. Okay, so when the confirm password and the confirm pin code and the pin code is matching, so it will call over here. So what we'll do is navi g8 navigator, tor navigator dot d, I can of context, and then I can pop it. For now I will just pop it. I'm not going to do anything, but if you have like you want to store it to the pin code to the Hive database or anywhere place, you can call from here. Currently we are not doing it, so for now let's just leave it as it is. And on the not the on pressed, I guess we can call it, and the footer, we can also have the footer, and on the footer we can set up some information. So I guess I can pass the text button, and this text button has the unpressed, and what we will do is on the unpressed and the child we have this particular let's pass in the const from here, and the text, let's pass in the text, and we'll call it some information here. Okay, so let me clear it out properly, and that should be, let's add the text. So we'll just say clear and return to enter modes, and that should be fine. And here we can pass in the style. So if you need some style, and I'll just say a text style, text style for now, and I'll just pass in the color, so it's yellow rs colors dot the white. That should be fine. And on when you click this one, what I want to do is I have this input controller that I have, input controller dot on set on confirm. So this will clear the input text. So we have this, and here we'll check for the condition. So if the value that we are guessing is true, which means that user is trying to on that particular setting, so we'll call the set passcode. Sorry, not call this one. We should call the set passcode function. Why I'm calling that particular function, I'm not sure, but I need to call this particular function from here. So when it is on, then I need to set the passcode. We can also have the another function, right, to show the passcode. So let's create this function to void void, and let's say underscore, so the so pass passcode, sorry, passcode, and let's have a function, and here I can say the final, and let's say correct string. So this can be of 1 2 3 4, and if let's have a correct string of 1 2 3 4 5 6. So if the user entered this string, that means it's correct. And I can just say show passcode, and here we need to pass in all of the information. So this show passcode are the function that is coming from the mixing class that we have defined. So that is the abstract class that we have previously created. And then we have a context, a string, that should be fine, and it unlock is a function call, right? So this is a function callback. And here what happened is whether the unlock was successful or not, whether the string that we pass in and the string user entered did match or not. So here I can just navigator, that I'll just pop it for now. I can also use a navigator of context and then just pop it. So that should be fine. And here, if you want to navigate to the another screen, whether you want to show certain UI when the unlock was successful, right? So then you should be good to go. And I'll just set this ones to the const, and this should be the value that you are actually saving. So if you are saving it somewhere, and then you can actually call this function. So here, if not, then I'll in the else part I'll just go and call the underscore the show the passcode screen from here. So I guess that should be fine. Let us try to test it out, and let us wait for the application to launch. Okay, so we got an error over here. So what we want to do is let's go and check our code. So we have a list style, so it is a switch style. So I guess it is coming from the switch style or something. So let me try to set this one as a SWI switch dot the adaptive, and that should be fine. So let's not use the switch style over here, and let's try to rebuild our application, and let's see whether that will fix our things. Okay, so we are able to see our screen over here, and then we have this switch button. So let's try to enable, and now you can see that we get that particular screen. So 1 2 3 and 4 5 6, and enter your confirm passcode. Then we'll just say 1 2 3 4 5 6, and that should return it, right? So you can see again here, create your passcode, which means that we don't have any state. So what we need to do next is to set up the state, so where we can hold that particular state for us. And for that, let's go back and let me close all of this for now, and let's create a state for our application. So what we will do is we'll go to our feature, and let's go to the setting, and let's go to the data layer. In the repository, let us create a new file and call it as a setting repository dot the dot file. And let's create an abstract class over here, and I will say the abstract class and call it as setting setting repository. And I guess spelling is not correct, so setting repository. And we will be using abstraction and the as you have seen already in the solid principle, and this will be our abstract class. And I will have a two function. Let's say this will be of the, let's say this will return as the future, and of the type is of the boolean. And we will have a add to a box, which we will be adding to our Hive box, and the type will be of a t or the generic type, because the box is a generic type, so it may require a dynamic type. So we want to pass in the concrete type over here, that's why we are passing as a type over here. And then it will be of a string type, and we need to add a box, we need a key, and also we need a value. So for that, the type will be of a value, will be type of the type t, and then let's say a value. So this will be our add function, and let's have another function future, and then we will have our option to have to get the value. So the type of the value that we want to get, it may be of a nullable, because the get from the box may return a null value. So get from, let's call it as a get the from the box, and this will return us we need to pass in the key that we need to pass in over here to get the value. So we'll pass in the key, and let's set this one as a t, so type of the value that we want to extract. So we have a add to box, and then we also have a get from box. And then let's create another class over here, and I said setting setting repository underscore impl the dot file. We will have an implementation class. So let's create a concrete class of the setting repository and the implementation, which will implement our abstract class, which will be of a setting setting our repository. So we will be using a DIP principle over here. So later if I have to replace with the other, then I can easily replace this particular if this other class depend on this setting repository, and then later I can replace it easily, right? So that is the main purpose. So it's not depending on the concrete class, which is our setting repository implementation. So once we have that, just make this create a two meshing override over here. To make to have a clear understanding over here, make sure that you have gone through the lecture of the DIP to understand this particular concept over here. So once we have this, let us try to implement all of this, and we need to implement the get and the add to box. So here we will require some let's have this one and final, and we will require a box, and that will be of a Hive box, and I've just called it as a box. And let's have a constructor for this one. Let's add the constructor over here, and what we'll do is in the add we will just make it the function as a asynchronous function. And here what we will do is we will just set up our await, and then we need a box that we have box dot, I can put the key inside that, so I need the key and the value, and then finally from here I will just return the true. Currently we are not doing any exception handling over here, but later when we are actually moving to the next section, we will be using the API and the error handling and all of those stuff. We will come back over here and revisit, because we will be connecting to the API, and at that time we will come and revisit over here, and then we will set up it again. So currently we are putting the value, and for putting the value inside the box, and we need a key and the value. And similarly here I will make it as a asynchronous function over here, and this I will just set it up over here from here to a return. I need to return from here await and underscore the box dot the get and get the key. So let's have that, and once we have this function, the repository is ready, and we'll go to the application and create a setting. We'll have a servi service, servic service.the file, and we will have a abstract class over here, same abstract, and the abstract class of the setting setting service. And let's have a function for this one too. So let's have a two function, that is to one is to add and one is to get from the box. For now we'll not complicate the things, and we'll just use a normal type. So I guess I can use the same functionality, because we are not doing any of this stuff. So let me just try to use the same functionality, and just go back over here. But later we will be setting up the different multiple type of result, returning a different things from here in the service section. So we will be doing it on the hopefully on the next course, where we will be setting up the API and all of this stuff. So we'll have the same thing over here, and return type is the same, and add to box. And let's go to our let's create a new file over here, and setting underscore serv service the underscore impl implementation and the file. Let's create a concrete class of the setting serv service setting service implementation, which implements the setting service, setting service, right? And here we will just implement that machine to functionality, and here we will need a final, and I need a setting repository over here. and this will be of a setting repository, and here we are also making use of a DIP principle. So we will need a setting repository, so later I can easily replace with the another class over here. And then I can just remove all of this from here, and here we will just make it as a asynchronous function, and from here I can also make it as a let's make it this one too as a asynchronous function, and await from here, and I can just call this underscore setting dot the get from the box and pass in the key too. And here I will also here let me make use of this one, await, and then what I need is I need a underscore setting repository dot add to box, right, key and the value. And this has a return type, so if you call this, it is returning as the future. So what I need to do is I need the final result, and this is of equals to this, and then I can just return from here the result from here. If you want to do something with that result, you can actually do it over here. So this is our business logic place where we can handle the logic over here for our business cases. And here what we need to do is this will return us the future of the t, or the type of the t that we are passing in. You can actually just, I guess, directly return it from here. Okay, so that should be fine. And currently we are not doing any of the business cases, but later we will handle it over here. And this is the right place to handle all of your business logic, whether you want to have a map it to the different model, returning a different value, converting it. So it should be on the setting or the application layer, which is over here. Once we have this, what we'll do is we'll go to the controller, and let's create a new file over here, and I'll call it as a setting controller.the file. And for this to work, we will need to have another state over here. So let's go and create a sts state, we'll call it as state, and just setting underscore sts state.the file. And we will be using our Riverpod over here to the Riverpod to set up our state, right? So to maintain the state, we'll be using a Riverpod. So for that, we will need to add some dependency over here. So let's go and add the dependency. So let's go back to the pub.dev over here, and in the pub.dev, what we'll do is we'll search for the one package. Let's search for the fridge package. We'll be using a fridge generator, so search for this one, and we need a fridge code generation for immutable classes that has simplified syntax. So we will be using that fridge package. And then let's go to the installation, and let's go to the installation, and let's get the dependency, and let's go back to the pub/spec.yaml file and add the dependency here, and also add the readme link for this one too over there. Just add it over here. And also we will need the annotation, so let's go over here, and this is the annotation over here. So the annotation for the fridge code generator, so this package does nothing with the fridge. So the fridge is a code generator, right? So we will need an annotation for this one to work correctly. So let's go to the installation, and let's add to this annotation. Just copy this one and paste it over here, and just paste it. Okay, so why it's not pasting? I guess I did not copy it correctly, so just copy it and paste it over here. And let's add the dependency, and I guess we have some error, and let's try to fix that error. So let me try to get a fpub-get, and let's see what is the error. It is conflicting with the another package, so I will just mention it without the actual version code. Let's try to get the package, and that looks fine, so we don't get any error for now, and hopefully that will work for us. And what we will do is, let's go back to our state over here, and let us create the state for us. So let's create a class and call it as setting state, and then we'll make it with the width, and I will just say underscore dollar, and this will be of a setting state. And with this setting state, you can have what state we currently need is, we just need to hold the one of the information, what the state of the pin code or the passcode that we are entering. So for that, what we'll do is, let's go over here and let's create a constructor or factory constructor. Sorry, it should be of a FSCT or a factory constructor, and this will be of setting the state over here. And what we will do over here is to just remove this and annotation over here, add the freezed annotation, and that should be fine. And then this particular what we have is a const factory, and I guess const factory state over here, and I guess this is the wrong one that we are actually doing over here. So it should be inside this, and here we will just return will be the underscore setting state. So this is a code generator. Currently it doesn't have any generated code, that's why it will give you an error. So I also need to add a part over here, and that will be of setting underscore state dot the we have a freezed dot the dart file. So this will generate another class file for us. And then once we have this, inside this, what we'll do is we will have to add our state. So let's add our state over here, add a DFA. Let's have a default state for our value over here, and also we will set the let's have a string type, and maybe we'll set it as a nullable. So I guess we don't need it a default value for the nullable. So let's have a string, and which is one nullable, and I just say we just say as a passcode, and that should be fine. So we will just have one state for now, which is of a passcode, and we need to run a code generator. So let's run our code generator command. So where was that? So let me find this command, and let us run this command, and that should generate us this particular state for us. So once the state is generating, let's go back to our controller, and let's create a class of the setting controller that will extend from the state notifier, and this takes the generic type and will pass the setting state from here, and that's the one, because the state notifier is the place where we will be managing our complex state. So here an observable class that stores the single immutable state. It can be used as a drop-in replacement for the change notifier, and if you have used already change notifier, that's quite similar, but it has some more advanced uses. So I will just go and call the super, and here I will also need the final setting service, and this will be of the setting service, or we'll just call it as a setting service over here, and then we'll just pass in the setting service over here. So once we have this class ready, we can have a void function to add we say pa passcode to box. So passcode to box, and here we will get a value type of the string, and let's see a value, and here we will call that a function setting service dot add a value to the box. and here we need to pass in the key and the value. So currently we don't have any key, so let's go and set up the key in our let's go to the core, and we have the where is our core, and inside this we have a local, and in the local we have currently we have where is our Hive setup. So it's actually in the db section over here, but what we'll do is db, we will put it inside the local. So let us move this one inside the local. So local, and just say okay. So let us move inside the local, because the database is for the local, and for the remote we have the API connection. Let's say here. So once we have this, let's add a box key, and we currently just have a setting box, and for this one let's add the const and then the string that we have, and let's have the let's say pass code key, and this will be of equals to the pass underscore co pass cod code underscore key, or you can give any other name. So passcode key, sorry, not the k, it should be of a key, or if you don't want, you can just replace it with the code key this way. So once we have this, let's go over here and we can call that, we can pass in from here, and that should be from here. We can also pass it from actually from here at the key, so I'll just call it as a from here, which will be of a string, and the type is of the key, and then that should be fine. And this returns us the future of 1, so I'll just call this one as a string function, and here I'll just call it as a final result, and this result will be of equals to the value that we are getting. We will have to make use of the await over here, and this is a boolean value. So currently we are not doing with this particular value, but you can obviously store it somewhere, or based on this you can check some condition, but that will be on the later stage. But currently let's just leave it as it is for now. And also here we have a void, and here we get the passcode, and get the passcode from the box, right? And here we pass in the string type, which is of the str, and the string is the key, and here not the string, it should be of str and the string key. And here what we will do is, now what we need is the final we will just get the result, which is of equals to the underscore the setting SETT and the setting repository dot get from box, right? And I need a asynchronous function over here, and this will be of the await, and setting, not the repository, setting service dot the get from the box, and we pass in the key. This will return us the future of the type T, so I can pass in the type as the string over here, so we'll get a value as a string or the null. So here what we will do is we'll check for the condition. If the result that we are getting over here is not equals to null, that means that the value is there, right? And what we can do is over here is also adding after it is successful, which is we are returning it true, and then we'll just say if the result currently we are getting, if it is true, then what we'll do is we'll go and update the state. So we'll just call state is of equals to the state dot the copy with, and I have a passcode over here. Passcode is the actual value that we are actually going to add, right? So I'll just pass in over here. This way we will set the state of our passcode. And here what we'll also do is, if when we are getting the value, so we can actually directly set this state which is of equals to state dot the copy width, and then we have the passcode is the result that we're actually getting. So it can actually take the nullable type, so that's why we can directly say. So now once we have this, let's go back to our widget over here, and then once in the init state, so let's go to the over here, and let's have init state over here. And in the init state, what we'll do is we'll call the function, right? So let's go and call the function ref, we'll use widget widget, we get ref widget binding over here. So widget binding dot the instance, and that the add the post frame callback, because before the build we want to call some functionality. Before our application is built or this is called, we want to call some functionality over here. So it should not be a long running function, it should just be a simple task. So I'll just call the ref dot the read functionality to the setting. Okay, so we don't have that provider, so let's go and create a provider for this particular class. So create a provider, provider, sorry, it should be provider. So let's get it, and I need a setting controller. So from here let's return the setting controller, and this will be not a simple provider, we'll provide a state notifier provider. So we'll use a state notifier provider. It takes the class and also it takes the state, so it takes the two generic type over here. And once we have this, we want to return this controller from here, right? And then this controller requires the one thing is the setting service and another is the state. So let's go and create a final, and that will be of a setting service. And this setting service, let's go and create our ref.watch, and here we will be watching the setting service. So currently we don't have a setting service, so what we need to do is we still have to go back to our let's go to the repository first and check we don't have any over here providers. So let's create a provider for this one too, provider, and it will be of a setting repository provider. Yes, now we need a provider, so let's import this package, and this will return us this particular setting repository and pass in the repository over here. And now this will require us the I need to provide return type of this implementation, and it requires the box. So how do we get the box is final, and I'll just call it as a box, which is of equals to ref.the_watch from our setting. Do we have a box previously created? So setting box, I guess the setting box is from our local and DB, and if you go to the Hive box, it has a Hive DB provider, and currently we don't have, we have this particular box which is of the setting box, and we need to provide this box to if you want to store that. So for that, let's go and create a new file over here and call it, as I said, it's setting, let's say box box, and the setting underscore box, and the provider setting box provider dot the dart file. So for that, I guess we can also have the we can also create a provider for this one. So I guess I'll add a new folder so it's more easy to maintain, provider provider. So p of a provider provider, and inside this let's add a new file. We already have this, let's move it inside here, and let's create a provider from here. So and setting box provider, so we want to provide that particular setting box, and import this provider, which is from the Flutter Riverpod package, and from here we will be returning as the box. And from here what we will return is the hive dot the box, because the box is already open for us, and we will just provide the box name to open. So as a setting box, this box will return a previously open box, because we have already opened this box when you are creating this initializing our secure box. So once we have that, let's go to our repository, and now I can get the as a setting box provider, right? So I get a setting box from there. Now I can pass the box over here. That should be fine. So once we have that, and let's go back to our service class, and in the application layer we have a service class, and let's create a provider for this one too. So provi provider, and this will be of a setting service provider class, and it returns this particular setting service. Let's return this one, sorry, it should return an implementation. And here we will import this Riverpod. Sorry, we need to import this Riverpod package, and then we'll need to return type will be of our setting service, and then here we need to pass in the repository. So our final repository repository, which is of equals to the just copy this setting repository, and this will be from the ref.the-watch will watch the setting repository provider, right? And then we'll just use this one, pass it over here. That should be fine. And now we are watching it all of the provider, because in case if this one changed, then we will be able to get it. So it's more way of reactive way. So once we have this, we have a provider. Now we can go to our controller over here, and we can get it from the SATT and the setting service provider, right? So we get a setting service provider from here, and then we need to provide this particular thing. One is of a setting service, and another one is the another one is the state. So state is of the SATT and the setting state that we have, and then we just pass in the const value over here. So now we have the controller. So let's go back to the settings screen, and in the settings screen we'll just go and again create the setting controller provider dot we need a notifier, and then we will have dot we will call to the function get a passcode from box, and then we provide the key. So we need a key, so it should be passcode key, right? So the passcode key that we'll provide from here. We are good to go. Now we are getting that value over here, and that value, what we need to do is we need to watch this particular value. So when we call this particular function, it returns us and set the state for us for this particular passcode. So we need to observe the particular value of this particular state change. So let's go back to the screen, and I guess we will do it inside the build context and watch this value over here. So let's go and watch this, and I'll just say final, and I'll just say passcode passcode over here, which is equals to ref.the-watch. I will watch the setting controller provider, and that I will just select the particular value from here. So value, and I have just a watch for the passcode. It's not necessary, but we just have a one state over here, but it is useful if you have a multiple state inside the particular state over here. You may have a 10, 20 or a lot of the state over here, so you may just want to filter it out by a single state over here. So in case you want this function or this widget to be rebuilt only when this one changes. Otherwise, if you just watch all of the state, every state change will trigger a build over here. So we don't want that one. It will have a performance issue if we have a lot of state over here. So we will just select a single state to observe, and if that changes, then only go and call the rebuild function, because watch will create a rebuild or trigger a rebuild over here. So what we'll do is we will go to the value over here, and we'll just check the passcode over here. If of equals to null, which means that the passcode is not set, and then we'll just set it to, if it is null, then we'll just set it to false. Otherwise, if it is already set, that means it has a value, that means the passcode is already set, and we'll set it to the true, so it will enable that particular things. So I guess that should be the one over here, and let us try to run our application one more time. And then we got an error, bad box not found, so Hive box this was not open. So I guess that should be the issue with the asynchronous function that we are currently calling. So let me go where is our Hive DB provider over here, and inside the Hive DB we have this asynchronous, and inside here we have a lot of the asynchronous function going on. So what I will do is I'll just remove this from here, and what I will do is I'll create this one as a future function, and future of the void, and I'll just make it as a public function. And what I will do is I'll just go to my main dot over here, and I'll just get the final and just call it as a db, and now I will call the await, and db dot, I'll just get an init call over here, and that should await for our function to complete, because currently we saw that the box was not open, which means that this function hasn't been completed completely. So we are opening a box over here, but it has to do a lot of stuff over here. So it has to await here, it has to await here, it has to await here. So when our application is already running, so the box is not open for us. So what we'll do is before we start our application, we will await for that to complete. So let us try to rebuild our application one more time, and let's wait for this to start. So I guess we have started the application, and let's try to enable this. 1 2 3 4 5 6, and 1 2 3 4 5 6, and still it's not enabled. So which means that we are not calling that particular function over here when we are setting. So here when we are setting it, when it is confirmed, then we will have to call that function ref dot we'll just call the read from here, setting controller provider dot the notifier, and then I will add the passcode to the box, and then I'll provide the key, which is of passcode key, and the value is the one that we are getting over here, so match text. So I'll just pass in over there. So this way it will go and call this particular function. So let's go and see. It will call this function, passing the key and the value, and it should go and add that to our box and set the state for us. So once the result is written, it should set the state for us, and since we are observing that state change over here, right, so it will help us to rebuild this particular widget tree. So let us go and restart our application. That should work fine. And let's go over here, and let's try to set up our key one more time. So 5 6 1 2 3 4 5 6, and now you can see that our state is updated. So now we will see that this is working fine. So now the next step would be to show this particular passcode. So if I want to uncheck this one, you will see that enter your passcode, and if I say 1 2 3 4 5 6, and that passcode match, but we are not disabling. So if you click over here, if you try to enter the wrong password, you will see that it doesn't work. So let me enter it wrong password. it has to be a 3 times, and now you need to wait for another 60 seconds to complete it, right? So this is working fine. The next step is that once the unlock is successful, what we want to do is we want to remove the key from our Hive box. So what we will do is we will disable that. So let's say I will just copy this functionality from here, and I will remove that particular key. So I will just pass it the null here, and this null is not currently accepted, so we need to fix it. So what we will do is let's go to this particular function, and let us allow us to add the nullable value over here, and also go to this function and make sure it also accepts the nullable value. That's fine. And also in the repository, okay, it's accepting the nullable value, so that should be fine. And when we unlock it, we will go and clear that particular passcode. So it is that when this particular switch is enabled, so we are going to enable it, and when the user want to disable the passcode, they have to again key in the passcode to disable it. And also here we need a string, so I need to call that string from our Hive DB. So I'll just call ref.the_read, and I'll call the setting controller provider, and then I need to get the passcode from here. And this is a nullable, so if it is null, I'll just say as a empty screen, and this should be of a final over here. And now we can just pass it over here. So I guess that should be fine, and let us try to rebuild the application over here. And once it is rebuilt, we can now disable it, and it will ask you to enter the password 1 2 3 4 5 6, and now you can see it is disabled. And again, if you want to enable it, then you have to re-enter and confirm your passcode 3 4 5 6, and that should enable it. So if you cancel it or if you disable it, it will ask you the password. So this is a good way of allowing user to set a passcode. Like it can be very useful, like if you want to show particular screen, but it needs authentication. So maybe you need a passcode authentication, or maybe you need a face ID or the fingerprint. So you can check for like a face ID and the authentication, like the fingerprint. If the device doesn't support, then the user are able to enable this particular passcode. So all of those the configuration you have now. So you have the configuration set up the passcode, you have the configuration set up the fingerprint and the face ID. So all of these are the security measure that you can apply to your application. So till now we have covered at least I guess 8 or 9 topic on the security, and these are all of the configuration that you can add to your application to make it more secure. And of course, the security is always not 100%, and we cannot guarantee that everything will be 100% secure inside your application. But the thing is that how you prevent, so you add a prevention measure. So you add an extra layer of the security to make it more secure, but the 100% security is always not guaranteed. So there is always a risk that we have to take, and we are not sure about the framework security, the packages security that we are using, right? So it may have a lot of the external factor that has to be resolved, and that's why we cannot guarantee 100% of the security inside our application. But we are having some kind of the measure, right? So we have a extra layer of security for our application to make it more and more secure. So that's all for this particular section, where we learn about building a secure application, and we learn a lot of the other stuffers that can help us to make our application secure and robust. And we'll continue with our lecture on the next module. Till then, have a great day.